took the week off because I had to attend some other business for our sister company, Outsider, in Nashville, and of course, just happened to coincide with one of the busiest weeks in Georgia recruiting. I don't want to say history, but certainly for this class. So Jake Roos is going to get you caught up to speed on that. Palmer Tom's going to catch you up on what he's been working on and what we're looking ahead to for the Dogs. And Jake, we'll just start with you, man. Let's not waste any time. Several commitments since the last time we spoke a couple weeks back. What is your takeaway from what Kirby Smart and the gang have going on right now this summer?
Well, it's a great sign. I mean, it's clear that official visits are doing what they're supposed to do. These kids are seeing what they need to see. The staff is still effective and recruiting at the highest level. And, I mean, it's not much more you can ask, right? Of course, the day that we would record last time, we get a commitment that day in A.J. Harris. And, that's a guy that really kind of the pendulum swung around on for a long time. Florida was a big consideration. We thought that was probably where he was going to land. I mean, if you would have asked anybody, I think in February, that's what they would have said about A.J. Harris. Instead, Fran Brown's able to get him on campus, build that relationship, and Georgia ends up winning out for the kid originally from the Peach State. He's got several friends in this class. He's really tight with Pierce Spurlin. They've known each other for a long time. So, there were a lot of factors that went into it, but Harris, Georgia's highest rated commit now in this class, and a guy that they definitely wanted. I think that it'll be one of those that they have to continue to fight to the end for. Other teams are going to continue to come after him. But overall, you got to be happy with the pickup. The nation's number 35 overall player in the on-3 consensus. So just outside of that five-star range that we're used to seeing right there. Where he lands at the next level, whether that be corner or safety, to TBD in my opinion. But make no mistake about it, he's a guy who can make an impact in the secondary.
Going to get to some sound from Aaron Murray. Spoke with him at the Extra Special People Golf charity event earlier this week and play his interview in full and some really good insight about Arch Manning and Georgia's quarterback room. And I want to hear from both of you guys about that. But, Jake, since we spoke, Arch committed to Texas, and that was a pretty wild day, kind of out of the blue. What did you heard about that, about his decision, about what his family was thinking, about what Arch was thinking? Seems like he knows where he wants to go. Could anything change his opinion or change his decision, I should say?
Don't wish that on me, Wes. Please don't make me have to track that again. I don't think so. I don't think that this is a situation. Look, the kid, for all of the hype that we gave him as the media, he avoided the media pretty strongly, as strongly as about anybody has in this recruiting game, and especially a kid of his stature and his presence. So I can't see a situation where he wants to throw this all back into the blender and just go through all that again. I think in the end, I think it was the quarterback development that won out, to be honest with you. I think that he's looked at what Steve Sarkisian's done versus what Todd Monken's done. And I mean, that's not a knock on Monken, but the specialty of Steve Sarkisian, a former quarterback, mind you, is quarterback work. I think I said this a couple episodes back. If he were a linebacker, I think he would have come to play for Kirby Smart. But he's a quarterback, and you want to play for a guy that you feel like can develop you the furthest. And I think, too, there's something to be said for the savior identity at Texas. I think that you resurrect a program like that, that's going to really change the trajectory of your life, even if you already have a changed trajectory by virtue of being a Manning. So I think that, there's a lot of factors that went into it. I can't say I was too surprised that he chose Texas in the end. The timing, I think, was a bit surprising. I don't know that anybody was necessarily expecting that. But, look, Georgia's continued to rack up commits. C.J. Allen came into the fold. Peyton Woodring, the kicker. I know that doesn't take the sting off of Arch Manning necessarily to pick up a specialist. But, I think that there's still a lot of meat on the bone in this class for Georgia, and the quarterback room I think is in great shape, and I know Palmer can speak to that as well.
Yeah, Palmer, looking ahead to 23 when Arch would have been a freshman at Georgia, will be a freshman at Texas, assuming everything holds serve. You're talking Brock Vandegrift, Carson Beck, assuming no one transfers, and Gunnar Stockton, potentially someone from the transfer portal, maybe a quarterback insurance signee out of the 23 class. I mean, it's a pretty stacked quarterback room. Arch Manning would have made it even more stacked, but how do you feel like Georgia fans should look at what the Dogs have at QB in 2023?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly one of the questions that we get asked quite a bit. During that Arch commitment or during that Arch recruitment and following it, people have said, what does Georgia's quarterback room look like in 2023? Because I think everyone assumes that Stetson is going to be the starter all throughout 2022. He burns his last year of eligibility, and you head into 2023 with a fresh slate. The way I look at it is, like you said, if nobody leaves, they've got three quality quarterbacks. Kirby has expressed his confidence in those three, along with Stetson. He's incredibly confident in the quarterback room that they have for this year, which means that he would be even more confident in the quarterback room that they have for the next year. With a year of experience under those very talented players' belts. I think the way that Georgia is probably going to approach it, and I've talked to Jake about this, with the recruiting class, is I'm not sure whether Georgia's going to end up taking a quarterback in 23 anymore. They went all in on Arch and maybe have burned some bridges in that class. They're certainly not in as many recruitments as some of these other schools are. And so, the way I see it is that they are going to probably write it out, and if one of those guys transfers, be it Beck or Brock or Gunner, I think that if one of those guys transfers, then they're looking at a situation where they have to go get somebody via the transfer portal to come in and compete for a starting job, or somebody just for depth purposes. But if none of those guys leave, if all three of those guys are there next spring, I think you're going to see all three competing for the starting job.
Yeah, Jake, would that surprise you to see Georgia just totally skip out on taking a QB in 23?
No, and as of right now, I'm not projecting that they will take a quarterback. There's not a clear name out there. I mean, there's just not a guy. Now, I do think that there's a possible scenario where you look later down the line, you see how these senior years pan out, what kind of tape people are able to put together. Do you find out about a transfer after the season and decide that you want to maybe revisit one of these? I know Palmer talked about that with me yesterday, the idea of, you find out, okay, in the postseason that one of those three guys is leaving. Maybe then you revisit the high school ranks and go out and find yourself a gem in the rough. But, right now I don't think that there's a lot of need. I think that they feel confident in who they have on campus. Listen, I mean, Arch is an amazing player, and I think he will be an amazing player. But I think that part of why you had to recruit Arch the way that you did was because of the name and what it would bring in terms of the spotlight. I mean, not that Georgia's lacking for
it. Yeah, you
it,
can't not try.
Georgia's not lacking for spotlight, but at the same time, this kid brings a whole other element, and he brings a whole other group of recruits. Texas has been on fire since Arch Manning committed, reeling in just top player after top player. And so, it shapes things a lot more than just the quarterback room. And I think that was as important in Georgia's recruitment of Arch Manning as his abilities under center.
Palmer, you and I have written a little bit about Kirby Smart's appearance on the Crane and Company show. Has some pretty interesting insights from Kirby there. We haven't heard a lot from him over the past couple weeks, so anything he says is going to be like rabbit ears for us and for our readers. What stood out to you the most? I liked his comments about the tight ends personally. I'm just excited to see how it looks, and I'm gearing up and kind of getting anxious to see how Georgia's offense looks. But what stood out to you the most?
Yeah, I mean, I think while we're on the topic of quarterbacks, let's continue on with it and talk about what Kirby had to say about the quarterbacks. He said, I would easily say this is the best when you take a picture of the whole room, top to bottom, those four guys that are going to be in that quarterback room during fall camp. the most depth that we have ever had. And I think that that kind of goes hand in hand with that, with their approach to this class of 2023 and the 2023 quarterback race. They feel confident in those guys. He said that Brock has now been through some spring games now. Carson has been through a couple spring games now. Both those guys have been played in too. Gunnar, he said obviously we know what Stetson brings to the table. He played in a lot of football games. From what we saw last year, Gunnar had some promising stuff during the spring as well. What does he want to continue to see from those quarterbacks? Well, they're putting those guys in situations where they have to lead, whether that's the team. I think that they're probably putting Gunnar in not necessarily in as many team leadership situations as they are Stetson, for example. But I think what he said is we've tried to put those four guys in front of the team, maybe even in front of their individual age groups. It's a unique situation where not many positions do you have a clear definition of this guy is this class, this guy is this class. The pecking order of sorts when it comes to age, and you can put those four guys in four different age classes, senior, junior, sophomore, freshman, and I think that that is an interesting way that he said that they've kind of handled developing all those guys, that they're going to develop Gunnar just as much as they are Stetson, but they're going to do that with the freshmen, that Gunnar's going to play on the freshman team of sorts. Brock and is going to be on the sophomore team, Carson on the junior team. So they almost have
like a JV like a freshman JV mindset.
Exactly. And I don't know, that's obviously you mix things up in the spring, you mix things up in the summer. I think when they're probably doing 7-on-7 type stuff, maybe that's how they approach it. I think that the biggest thing with all those guys is with that depth, you want to get all four of those guys reps. Because, like we said, after this season, Stetson's gone, and one of those three guys, Brock, Carson, and Gunnar, is going to have to be your starter more than likely in 2023. And so, they're certainly going to be competing for that spot. So you want them to be developed and comfortable going into that spring where they're going to be competing. So, that certainly stood out. Like you said, the tight end comments stood out to me as well. I think that it was interesting to hear him talk about the way that they feel confident that they can use all of these tight end weapons. From Brock Bowers, obviously, but down to Oscar Delp. I think that they feel confident that they can utilize the skill sets of Bowers, Washington, Gilbert, Delp. All four of those guys, even if you want to go past those four, those are the premier four recruits. But I think Brett Seither and Rylan Godey as well. Certainly two guys that are older in that system and have been around the program. Seither had a lot of opportunity this spring, with Bowers out, with Washington out, with Gilbert coming along, with Delp being a freshman. There were certainly opportunities for those guys this spring. And so, I think Kirby feels confident in all four of those guys. Again, very similar to that quarterback room. I just think that you're going to get to see those tight ends play a lot more than you will all four of those quarterbacks. I think that they feel confident in what Todd Hartley and Todd Monken can scheme up offensively, and they're going to be able to use all those guys because they have so many different skill sets in that position group.
Yeah, Coach Hartley just got a raise and extension since we recorded last as well. Very well deserved. And Palmer, you just wrote about a feature that On3 has called it reminds us of, and it compares like a current player recruit and their scouting profile to a different player. Jake, I'm going to put you on the spot here. Who does Delp remind you of? We've seen a little bit of him already at G-Day. Is there anyone that you can compare Oscar Delp to for his career coming in as a freshman?
Yeah, he reminds me of Brock Bowers. I mean, that's
a pretty good comparison.
Yeah, I mean, I've said that pretty much throughout his recruitment. The difference is he's bigger. I mean, he's a taller version of Brock Bowers, but he's similarly fast, got similarly excellent hands, great build. I mean, he's built to take punishment. He's not, You can be a little skinny to be playing tight end. Pierce Spurlin is a guy who's going to have to put some weight on when he hits campus to really kind of flesh it out and be ready for the abuse that you're going to take from some of these linebackers in the SEC. Delp's pretty well built right now, and I think that it's a situation where he'll be fine moving forward. I think, listen, I don't mean to put that on anybody. I mean, Bowers' freshman year was so special that it's going to be tough for anybody to replicate it. But from a skill standpoint, I think that he has that kind of upside, no question about it.
I'm never going to forget listening to 680, The Fan, Atlanta station, if you're listening from outside of the Atlanta area. And David Pollock was on one of the shows, and it was leading up to the Clemson game, and they asked him which guy was going to make the biggest impact in the game, and he's the only guy that I remember saying Brock Bowers. And obviously he had access to practice that a lot of people don't have, and he kind of had that inside track. But it kind of surprised me to hear that. I didn't really think too much about it, and then lo and behold, you go out in the Clemson game, and Brock's like the number one target almost, certainly at tight end. And, at the time, Darnell Washington was injured, and it seemed like, okay, maybe Brock's just stepping up, but once Darnell comes back, Brock will take a lower role. That's not what happened at all. So I fully trust Hartley, Monken, all the above to be able to develop and use another freshman tight end, and Delp certainly has a great opportunity there. So, guys, the ESPYs released their list of nominees. I don't know how you feel about the ESPYs. I kind of feel like it's just the made-for-TV, nowadays made-for-social media event. But they have the best team nominees out, and it's basically all the champions in all the big sports from the past year. They lump them all together. But the Dawgs and the Braves are both up for the award, and I've had a lot of feedback. I asked people on Twitter yesterday, which team do you think is the best team? And I think it depends on what you define as the best team. I want to hear what you guys think about that. I'll let you think about it. I'll share what I think. I think there's a big difference between the best team and the best story. I have a Braves hat on my head today. I still feel like Georgia was a better team. Maybe the Braves were a better story. And obviously they were both great stories. They both broke championship droughts. But in the context of the season specifically, Braves might have been a better story. They came back, they struggled, they didn't have Ronald Acuna Jr., all the above. But Georgia was just so dominant, it's hard for me to not say that they were the better team. Do y'all have any case against that? Am I off the mark, or are you thinking the same thing?
Well, I don't care about baseball, first off, so I really don't. Obviously, I'm biased.
So we know your answer.
I'm biased in this one. But I think, too, look, if you're with the criteria of best team, right, Georgia set an NFL draft record this year. That's not something that happens every day. And so I think that you have to take that into account when you're evaluating the team, because that makes this a truly historic team. I think by any measure, no matter how you slice it up, okay, you got a championship. Well, now you've also set a record that many people thought unattainable or would be incredibly difficult to ever reach. So for those two reasons, I think Georgia probably, or for that reason alone, I think Georgia probably gets the nod for best team. But again, like I said, I'm incredibly biased here.
So are we talking about best team just between those two, or best team overall? Because I agree with y'all. I think that Georgia was the better team between those two, with the Braves and the Bulldogs. I honestly, I don't know if if the Braves are a better story. Because I think that Georgia breaking that championship drought, a longer championship drought, doing it in the way that they did with a former walk-on quarterback. That's a Disney movie story right there. But I don't know that I would have Georgia or the Braves as the winner of the award.
Well,
I'm not gonna place my bets on Georgia or the Braves winning this award, because you've got the Rams up for it. A lot of people in my mentions were saying, this is great, Wes, but one of the California teams, the Golden State Warriors or the Rams, are going to win this award. So I don't know who's going to actually
win it. I don't know that either
win
one of them should win it. I've got a different one that I think should win it.
What are you going to say? A soccer team?
It's Oklahoma softball. I mean, they went 59-3, guys. They dominated their way through that schedule.
They're definitely going to win.
They were 38-0.
I think we all know they're going to win.
They were 38-0. They went 59-3. Their average margin of victory was insane. I mean, the 3 games that they lost to Texas. They lost to Texas 4-2. Well, they had just run-ruled Texas the day before, and they beat Texas in the College World Series to win the national championship, 16-1 and 10-5. They lost to UCLA in the College World Series. The next day, they come back to beat them 15-0. It was insane what they did throughout that schedule.
If it tells you how myopic my view of the sports world is, I'm hearing all of that for the first time. I had no idea any of that. I had no idea about it.
Yeah, Palmer's taking us to school here.
I covered Georgia football recruiting and Georgia football, and that's about all I know about, to be honest with you. So
it's a fun debate. The playing fields are not level. It's not the same for any of these teams. I mean, comparing a hockey team to a college softball team is kind of crazy. But it's a fun debate, and it got my follower base talking because a lot of them didn't want to have to choose, but they had some pretty compelling reasons. Some of them used the same talking point. The fact that the Braves came back, or the fact that the Braves were terrible and then came back and won it, versus the fact that Georgia was dominant the whole year. People use that same argument to justify different teams. So that was funny to me. Yeah. There's no way to really settle that debate. Fun one to have with your buddies over the weekend while you're sipping on a couple cold pops for Independence Day. Guys, this has been great. We're going to take a quick break, and on the other side of this, we'll have a conversation that I had with Aaron Murray, talking about Arch Manning, talking about Georgia quarterbacks and tight ends, and talking a little bit about his involvement with NIL and NFTs. A lot of abbreviations these days that people are confused about, so maybe Aaron can clear things up. All right, I'm here with Aaron Murray. Aaron, we got a pretty good deal with the ESP charity tournament today. Can you just tell me, I know you've been involved with ESP for a while. What got you involved originally?
Yeah, so I was very fortunate enough that during my time in high school, our high school had a program for kids with both mental and physical disabilities, and just loved interacting with them. To have lunch with them, do activities, and it's just a great time. So when I got to Georgia, I was like, man, I want to be able to find some sort of organization to continue this work, and found ESP, linked up with Laura Whitaker, who runs the whole show, and just fell in love with these kids. So, started working with them with their Big Hearts pageant, which if you don't know about it, make sure you check it out. It's an amazing event that happens every February, end of January, beginning of February. It's a talent show. So I was an escort at first, escorting the kids on stage, really helping them get excited and juice before they get out there in front of thousands of people to do their talent. Now I MC the event with my brother, and this is our 3rd year doing the golf tournament. So just really love these kids, love working with them, love what they're doing. And they've had some big news these past month. Just finished their baseball field, so all these kids can go out there and play some baseball and have some good time doing it.
They love their Georgia quarterbacks up there, man. So as far as Georgia quarterbacks right now go, obviously Georgia missed out on the commitment of Arch Manning. In your opinion, on a scale of 1 to 10, how bummed should Georgia fans be about that?
Oh, I mean, I guess like a 6. I would say a 6. It's not the end of the world. As we know, they are loaded with the quarterback spot, and there's a lot of good competition in that room right now. I'm excited to see what Stetson can do this year. I think giving Stetson this first opportunity to get the starting reps in spring and summer and fall camp, and then the receivers that he has around him, with Kieris and McConkey and A.D. Mitchell, if those guys can stay healthy along with that amazing tight end room, I think this offense can be a lot of fun to watch. And then next year, man, we got some dudes in there that can fling the rock and have some fun doing it. So not too stressed. You always love depth, you love competition, but I think Kirby's hit it here in the past couple weeks. They have, I think the deepest room that I've seen at Georgia have that quarterback spot in a long, long time. So that's why I said 5 or 6. It would have been great to add them, but I think we're in a really good spot right now with the guys who we have.
Speaking of deep rooms, Kirby's talked about how Monken likes to use the strength of the team.
Yep.
Right now, I don't know if there's any strength other than tight end that's like clear in a way the best. Can you kind of envision offensively, schematically, what an offense that looks like that could do without any tight ends?
I love it. I think the tight end is the best position you can use nowadays, especially with those guys that are, that basketball build. You can flex them out, you can move them around. I mean, just think about it. You come out there in 13 personnel, 3 tight ends, 1 receiver, 1 back. A defense has to declare what do they want to do. Do they want to stay in base defense? So 3 linebackers and 4 DBs. All right, if you want to do that, then I could split Bowers out, get him matched up against a safety or linebacker. If I'm Stetson, I get that matchup, I'm going to take that every single time. All right, you want to come out there and nickel? You want to take one of those linebackers out and put an extra DB? We'll get big. We'll play big boy ball. You bring those tight ends in, and then you just pound the rock against a defense that doesn't have as much size because of the fact that they brought nickel in there. So I think you can really play to the strength of those guys. They're able to block, they're able to flex out, they're able to match up against linebackers and safeties. You see in the NFL, obviously we saw it last year with Bowers. You get those 3 guys doing it, I think as an offensive coordinator, you can have a lot of fun with formations and shifts and motions to really have an advantage on the defense.
A couple more questions for you. So with Stetson, I mean, obviously he doesn't have the acclaim of being the 5-star guy, of all that comes with that. But looking at what he meant for Georgia's offense last season and looking at the experience he brings back and knowing the system with Monken, I mean, how do you assess what he does for Georgia's offense, even for people that don't really value or understand why he's so good?
Well, I think the leadership is the biggest thing with Stetson, and he is such a competitor. He's a hell of a leader. Guys on the team trust him. And I always tell people, yes, you want the guy that's 6'5" and can throw the ball a country mile. Like, I wish I was 6'5" and could throw the ball a mile. And it would be, I may still be in the NFL, but you love the guy that makes everyone around him better, and that's what Stetson does. Guys around him trust him. They trust that he's going to put them in the right situation with the checks, with the blitz pickups. And if everyone around, those 10 guys around him have confidence and they play at a higher level because Stetson exudes that confidence, as an offense, you're going to be more efficient. As a defense, you're going to be more efficient. So I think right now, to me, there's Stetson is one of the hardest workers I know, one of the best competitors I know, and one of the best leaders I know. And to me, I'd rather have a quarterback that has all those traits than someone who doesn't, who can just throw the ball a mile. So I think Stetson's in a good spot this year to really take another step forward. Plus, man, I think he can make all the throws. When I watch Stetson, there's not a throw that he can't make. You throw in his ability to run. The only thing that I want Stetson to work on this year, which is kind of a tough balance, is just that Brett Favre mentality of trying to feel like he can make every single throw. Sometimes the defense is going to win. They got scholarship dudes, they got DCs that make millions of dollars. They are going to win. Stetson can just realize when to take a chance, when not to take a chance, when not to put his team in a bad situation, which it comes with time. I see him taking a big step forward this year.
All right, last one for you. Tell me about Players Lounge, how it fits in with Georgia's Classic City Collective specifically. I know y'all just partnered up, but just the broader scope. How does it fit into this new NIL landscape for players, but also for fans?
Yeah, I mean, the goal of, I think, both the collective and us, and why we're excited to partner with them, is to give these players an opportunity, one, to make money. I think that's obviously, we all know that's a part of the game, but do it in a way that really showcases their personality, their interests outside of sports, and connects with the fans. I think a perfect example this past weekend, we were able to get Kendall Milton. Kendall came to us and said, hey man, I love cars, I love racing cars and all that. So we partnered with BMW. We sold 5 digital tickets, NFTs with Kendall and BMW. If you're one of the guys that bought them or gals, you got to go on a BMW experience with Kendall. And it was amazing. They had a blast. And it's 5 fans' opportunity to go out there and hang with Kendall outside of football, to really get to know who he is behind the mask. And we're doing some stuff with Ladd and Ryland and some other players as well, where you just, like I said, you get to know who they are, not just a football player, but the kid who loves racing or video games or golf or whatever their said talent is outside of the sport. So we're excited about it. We're excited just to bring fans and players together in this new world.
Yeah, I think it's one of the most exciting things. Obviously, I'm biased from a media standpoint, but I think from the fans, they get to know you, the players, a lot more. So, all right, Aaron, appreciate it, man.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yep.
Go Dogs.
Go Dogs, man. You guys have anything else before we wrap up this segment and head into the Independence Day break?
Watch out for Georgia and Daniel Harris moving forward. That's going to be a recruitment I think that they're going to be a major player in. He's soon to commit. Kelton Smith, another guy you'll want to be watching here in the next couple weeks.
How about Raylan Wilson decommitting, Jake?
Hey, boy, that was, I guarantee you, Glenn Schumann was rubbing his hands together all over that one, man. I mean, that was an exciting one for Georgia. I put my pick in as soon as he decommitted for Georgia. I think that the Bulldogs will be the landing spot. Troy Bowles is another guy. So, look, summer's here, but that means that everything's in full swing. A lot of these guys want to get their decisions out of the way before the fall season starts, and I think Georgia is going to benefit heavily from many of these recruitments.
Yeah, and as we turn the calendar from June to July, I mean, we just get closer and closer by the day to football season. Within 3 weeks, we will be at SEC Media Days, Wes and I, and intern Jack as well. Excited about that. It'll be here before we know it, and I'm sure we'll get back on here to talk about it before then, what we expect to hear, what we want to hear. But I'm getting excited as we get closer and closer by the day. Fall camp will be here before you know it. Kickoff to the season will be here before you know it. And it kind of all gets going. The chaos gets started. It gets hectic here as soon as SEC Media Days roll around.
Gets hectic for us, but I hope y'all have a restful weekend, a safe holiday weekend, and we will catch you next time here on Dog Walk Talk. If you're freeloading this episode and not a subscriber to DawgsHQ, that's okay. Go check us out for free for 7 days right now, DawgsHQ.com. Just got tagged yesterday on the Texas message board, which a lot of premium subscription sites don't allow you to do, is chat back and forth with your rivals or other teams, or check out what they have going on their message boards, which is a great feature of On3. So check us out for free for 7 days if you aren't already. And we appreciate your listening to this episode and reading our words. We'll catch you next time on Dog Walk Talk. Happy 4th.